Today I'm going to tell you a story that's more than 2,000 years old. You see, Elizabeth wanted to have a baby. She wanted to give birth. And she had hoped and hoped and hoped that she would become pregnant. But she didn't. And year after year, she didn't. And she was told she was barren, and she was told that something was wrong with her and it was her fault. You can imagine that must have felt terrible. And she must have felt so disconnected from the other women who were raising children, who were seeing them grow, who talked about their labor stories and what it was like to be pregnant. And Elizabeth hadn't been part of any of that. It was isolating. It was lonely. But then, of all things, an angel came to her. And she very much believed in her God. And she was very devout in her faith. And so she trusted the angel when it told her that she would be pregnant and she would have a baby. And in that moment, she was swept up in the glory of it and the belief and the passion. But afterwards, and in the months to follow, it was hard to remember how much the angel made her feel how strong and how happy, and she felt more and more disconnected from that moment. And yes, her belly started to grow and she felt different, but she was still unsure. And now imagine at that time, it's not like she went to the doctor and the doctor said, yes, and here is an ultrasound of your baby. So she was waiting. She was hoping and hoping this was true and hoping it wasn't just a terrible stomach ache or something. I mean, she thought it was real, but she was so unsure. And she was waiting and waiting. And in that waiting, she felt lonely. Alone. That's a feeling that we know pretty well right now in pandemic times. That waiting to see if something is going to happen and something is going to change, and feeling disconnected and alone while we wait and wait. She felt so alone. But one day, she had a visitor come. It was her cousin Mary, who was also pregnant. Now, Elizabeth at this point had been with child for about 6 months, and Mary was just barely pregnant. And Mary came in the room, and they saw each other, and they saw in each other, this older cousin and younger cousin, the recognition, that holding, that excitement of, yes, I'm waiting for this promise, but yes, I'm unsure. And what is this going to be like? And oh, all of those feelings. And they saw each other and they hugged. And as they began to speak, the most wonderful thing happened for Elizabeth. She felt that first true confirmation of a baby growing in her belly. She felt that baby kick against the side of her stomach. She felt it move and flutter inside of her. And that waiting that she had been sitting with all alone and for so long was over. And she had that moment of peace and joy and knowing that the next thing was about to happen. And she felt so powerful for the life in her body, for her life. Remember, you are so very powerful and so very loved.